evening, everyone. Today is Tuesday, November 15th. The time is 6:31 p.m. and I'd like to call this meeting to order. First is the minutes from November 1st. Any questions, comments, corrections? Hearing none, I'll take the motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes from November 1st.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next is warrant 29. Questions or comments? I think we have it here in the folder to sign. If not, I'll take the motion.
I'll make a motion to approve warrant 29.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, girls ice hockey. I didn't see anything in our folder. Is there something?
It's Dylan.
Okay,
You can come on up.
come on up.
Adam didn't bring him a chair.
Sorry.
So it's not
Do you want a chair?
No, thank you.
Okay.
So we are co-oping or hoping to co-op with you guys' approval with the Long Meadow Girls Ice Hockey Team. We have 2 students signed up and looking forward to playing. The user fee is the same as every other sport right now at $150. We will have to look at what we end up getting billed to see if we're going to charge the families a little bit more, but it would be reasonable with what everybody else charges as far as ice hockey, and rink time and all that stuff gets a little expensive compared to other sports. But so yeah, we got approved at the through District 1 and the state and all that stuff. So
What grade are the girls in?
one is a freshman and one is a sophomore.
Awesome. So they'll be able to take advantage of it for a few seasons, which is nice.
Yeah, and we had been losing some of our athletes to go to Pope Francis and play for their hockey team, so we're hoping maybe we can keep some of our students in
Excellent.
the district.
Any questions? Comments?
So I'm assuming this was already approved with Long Meadow. We had gone to them, or how did?
Yeah, through Long Meadow and our Western Mass ADs districts voted on it and
Okay.
all that good stuff.
Great.
So was the interest generated here where girls were looking to play, or did you, yeah?
Yeah, I guess it's been going for a couple of years, and we've kind of been getting pushed around a little bit, and we finally got the right people to advocate for us and get in, so
Awesome.
we're excited for that.
Excellent.
And hopefully they'll help spread the word too, and then maybe it'll be more than just 2.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there a limit for like the number of students that can participate in a co-op?
I'm still kind of new to the co-op, but there's 2 girls ice hockeys and Western Mass teams. Pope Francis has like 11 schools that they co-op with, and Long Meadow has 13 or 14. So I believe they offer JV and varsity. So they should have a place in the program somewhere.
Right.
And I think like it would impact us if we had enough interest to like have our own team, then like the co-op has to, and like there's some rules around co-ops that like that. Or if the host school grew to have like sufficient numbers to have their own. So typically the co-ops are approved annually.
Okay.
Thank you.
If there aren't any questions, I'll take the motion.
I'll make the motion to authorize the girls ice hockey co-op.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank
That's
you,
great.
guys.
Thanks, Dylan.
Thank you.
It's nice to get some more options. I think that's great. Chartwell contract adjustment.
Yep, so we had talked about this at last meeting, I believe. I put a cost breakdown into your guys' folder on the potential impact. So this was Ken and Chris had brought this proposal to me just after the start of the year. Ken did some research with some area school districts on what they pay their food service staff, and they are, they'd like to see a possible $1, about a $1 increase to their hourly wages, mostly to attract and retain staff. They do have a really good crew here between East Meadow and the high school, and what we put them through the last couple of years with the high school kitchen or lack of kitchen and all the work that they put in. I would certainly be an advocate for it. So the cost of that increase is in that spreadsheet. Was everyone able to see it, open it? It'd be a little less now. This was projected on the full year, so it'd be less than that, 11,836 at this point. And it would have obviously a minor impact to the contract over the next couple of years, so I can iron all that out with them. But ultimately, you guys would have to approve it because it would be a increase and change to the contract. So.
And this change can be covered with the savings that we've been.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And we can use those funds for this kind of.
Yeah, correct. So all of this is already billed on the monthly invoice. So nothing would change other than a minor increase this year.
And this would be potentially considered going forward and not anything retroactively?
Yeah, going forward, correct, yep. Good question, yeah. That would be going forward.
Yeah, good call with the retroactive. I didn't
Yep.
do that.
And again, really, I know they were having some trouble finding some staff at the beginning of the year. So again, just kind of put us at par with the same level of some area districts and keep the staff that we have. And if we do need to fill positions, they can have a respectable rate because it's through them. So we're really just approving the increased change to the contract.
Excellent. Any other questions?
Just at the bottom number there, that's the projected impact.
That was projected impact from the beginning of this year, so that would be for the next 2 years, a little less than $12,000 would be the, unless hours are modified, but at most it would be that little less than 12,000, 11,836, yeah.
But this, so for us, would not take effect until,
So this would, I'll talk with Ken as soon as, if you guys do approve it, I'll work with him on, see, maybe the first of the year, and then I'll update at least the projection for this year and provide that to you guys so we know the cost for this year.
I don't know, like, is it silly to like have that first before we
If
approve
you'd
it?
like me
Just
to-
so that,
Because
like,
I think that the biggest thing is that we have 2 full years left on the contract, so
Right.
the biggest impact is this 11,000.
but making sure that Ken understands that we're not paying that whole amount this year, that we're only doing it from January on, or that's.
Yeah, it would be
clear.
effective
Whatever.
upon approval, not from
Okay.
July 1st or September
Got
1st.
it.
Yes, it'd be
Perfect.
effective as of the vote. And the way we always do our contract, this one was a 5-year contract. However, it's 4 renewal years. The same we've done in the past, 3-year contract, but 2 options for renewal. So this one's a 1 year with 4 options of renewal. So, what you're approving right now is just for the remainder of this year,
Okay.
technically, because we're only under a 1-year contract. When we go and renew
It would be
for the next year, we'll have updated numbers, and then you can
Okay.
approve that
But
contract year too.
we could afford the full amount.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Any other questions?
It's funny, like, I feel like comfortable right now because we know we're in the green in that account, but that's not an account that we're usually in the green on. So that's where it like,
No,
And it is
and
what
again,
it is.
speculation, I don't see free meals going away or some variation of it, just personal speculation. I don't see that. Will we see the amount of revenue in that account going forward that we have in the last couple of years? Probably not as much, but I don't foresee us being in the position where we were years ago asking for a $160,000 transfer to get us out of a deficit.
Right.
Honestly, this is pennies in comparison to, the overall food service budget. If we couldn't afford a little less than $12,000 a year, we got some bigger problems probably. But yeah, to your point,
Just making it
yeah,
transparent
to your
for
point, again,
anyone
it's
that's
purely speculation.
watching.
I don't see those
Right.
revenues growing as much as they did over the last couple of years, but I
Yeah.
also, again, don't see us being in that predicament like we were a few years ago. So, and again, we can review this contract on a yearly basis, so. This could be a one-year thing. If next year free lunch isn't what it is, or reimbursement isn't what it is, then we can reevaluate.
Well, I feel like there has to be, like, even seeing these right now, I'm like,
Yeah, I mean, but-
yeah, exactly.
yep, yeah.
Right, and this is a crew that was here throughout.
Yeah, they're-
Absolutely.
lunch-
yeah,
And
they're
that's just
awesome.
it, though. It's like, this is more than well-deserved. in my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah,
You
they're-
know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
that's
Yep.
more than well-deserved.
And we had me and Ken a couple of years ago had accelerated the minimum wage implementation. We kind of had given it to them, I think it was like 6 months before the new minimum wages. So they have seen some early increases over the last couple of years, but like Steve said, I mean, most of the staff has been here for years. What we're putting them through, prepping everything in this kitchen, going next door.
No kidding.
Like, they're
Yep.
great. It is well-deserved. And us and Chartwells can't afford to lose them, so any little thing we could do to
Yeah.
help them would be
Agreed.
greatly appreciated.
If there's no further questions or comments, I'll take the motion.
I'll move the motion to accept the Chartwells contract adjustment.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Next is the new subcommittee for onboarding. We need to vote it into existence, and decide who will be on it. Any last minute questions or discussion on this committee? Okay, with that, I'll take a motion to approve the onboarding subcommittee.
I'll make a motion to approve the new onboarding subcommittee.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, who would like to be on the onboarding subcommittee?
Guess I should probably be
Yeah,
on it.
I think it's probably fitting. Anybody else?
Can I just make a recommendation that possibly one person who's not up for reelection next year is on it, so there is some continuing voice?
Looks like it's you, Jen.
Looks like it's me. That's okay.
Trying to be as diplomatic about it as I could, but I just think for
I'll-
continuity.
No, you're
No,
with me.
I'm not either. We can talk about it. I mean, I'm doing CES evaluation
And
Policy.
and policy.
Yeah, it's fair. I can totally do it. But I just had a moment of panic. I'm like, oh gosh, all four of you. But you and I are
No,
the same.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So, if everyone's in agreement, we don't need to vote on that. That will work. So we have work groups set up. We have budget and finance, goal and evaluation, and then onboarding. So we'll just have to stagger that because we have.
It could just be budget and finance meets for part, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah, and then onboarding after. And because you guys are kind of doing goals and evaluations too also. It's 6:45. Do we want to convene at 7:30? Is 45 minutes enough? Okay,
that works for me.
all right. So we'll do budget and finance, and we have quite a bit to go over for budget and finance. Or not?
I'm just gonna review the calendar.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if
So-
it'll take 45 minutes, but it could.
what if we did 30 there and
We'll do,
15
yeah,
for
we'll do 30
onboarding?
and then we'll get together for 15 minutes at the end to do the onboarding and kind of outline some things. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, so 7:30. Okay. Okay, back from our work group meetings, goals and evaluation.
So, Audrey and I just updated the school committee goals and just kind of cleaned up the information there a little bit. So we have the 2 goals that focus on onboarding new school committee members and opportunities for potential training and development. So again, the same focus that we've talked about before, made the document, I don't know, just cleaned it up a bit and kind of ready to be put wherever we think it needs to live, either in the folder we create, I don't know, wherever anybody thinks.
We also added a hyperlink so that the handbook is there for when you and George are ready to tackle any of that.
So nobody needs to search.
Do we have a school committee goal folder?
No, so I don't know if we want to create its own folder and then within that folder kind of create something separate for like the
Documentation.
Yeah. It might be something we can.
Where did you say the goals are in the?
It's
Type
a
in school
document.
committee goal under your search.
All right.
And you all are listed as editors, so just be careful.
Would you look at that? It's asked me to take a tour.
Yeah, and so the handbook that we linked to is the handbook that was created, I believe, in 2018.
Probably by you.
Some of it was, yeah. I didn't do much of the typing, but I did much of the words.
So, and that's it for us.
Anything else?
I guess, should we decide who's gonna create the folders and all that? Do we need to, because we'll need to create a folder
Right, to be able to
for the
accomplish that
potential
task.
training and development and all that.
I would designate you.
Yay! Sounds great. Okay.
You are our Google guru. Try saying that 3 times fast.
I taught Jill how to link a file today. After I figured out 30 seconds before. I did know how, I just didn't think I could do it with a Word doc, but surprised you can.
Looks good.
And you guys can access the handbook, right? That's, okay. That was my other question. I didn't know with it being a Word doc, how that worked.
I think it's funny that Emery is still the owner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His account must still be live or something.
That's weird.
Is that, I don't know, David, is that something?
The only thing interesting is if I go to,
He's still the owner on like docs that are in here.
Yep.
So does that mean?
Change that if it's your desire.
I just, like, just looking at it, it was adopted in November of 2018, and the school committee members are listed out. So should we update, I mean, at the time, that is accurate for the time when it was done, so do we?
But if you're updating the document, then you'll update it with your newest stuff, but because Emery was the original owner, does he stay as the owner? Should, like, it actually be owned by Mr. Sullivan? Like, you know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
that's why
no-
I'm just wondering, like, because the by designation, the members of the school committee will change, right?
Right.
So, that's what, I mean, like, I appreciate the blurb, like, I think, you know, that probably should stay with the document as the history, but it needs to be up, you know, as we update it, it needs to be
Yeah.
shown members at the time.
You can
right?
always.
Agreed.
Yeah, you can always add a line, you know, adopted 11/2018, updated,
Right.
and then add as of.
Okay.
You know, and that way, I'm sure there could be another cycle at some
Reiteration,
point
yeah.
too.
Okay.
So that updated date could always be the one that's changed, so we know like which version or which revision of the version we're in.
Right.
But you're right, like, I think it's important to recognize the work that the original members did, and keeping that there is nice.
The only interesting thing on mine is it prompts me to request edit access, and then it does say to the owner.
So technically, you shouldn't, it's a
We're
Word
not
doc,
editing.
so you should be downloading it. not using it as the Google Doc. It'll allow you, if you click it, to open it as a Google Doc, but technically you should download it and open it as the Word doc because things might be wonky when it like transfers over.
So my only option is copy link, edit link, or click on it. There's no other, it doesn't give me an option to download. We can figure this out after. Like mine doesn't look like.
Well, if you go into Google, your Drive, you can also search up school Granby SC member handbook and it'll pop up that way too as the Word doc.
And if you go under file, even when you're
Oh,
in
okay.
the document, you can look under file
Oh,
and
okay,
you
there
can
it is.
download under file.
Yes.
And you can
Thank
download
you.
as a Word doc.
There you go.
Okay.
See, look, you just taught me something.
It's because I change all mine back. And then you should be able to edit.
Got it. Thank you.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Do you want to do budget and finance or onboarding next? Budget and finance.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm going?
Yeah.
Oh.
You're only here with us for a little bit, so we're gonna get all of it next weekend.
So we just went over the budget process calendar. It's in the folder for tonight too, so you guys can take a look at it. Just a couple of highlights, really. The first iteration of our budget, we're gonna send to Chris on December 30th, which is a lot earlier than in years past, so the next few weeks will be a little bit of a crunch for the leadership team, just getting some requests back to us and building a pretty high level budget. Chris is of the understanding that this is, very high level, but he gets his budgets from the rest of his town departments by December 30th. And we had talked last year through the budget process about how we had gotten it to them a little late in the game. And one of our focuses for this year was to make sure they got it early enough. So we're gonna send it the 30th, so he has every budget town-wide, which will allow him to plug our number into, one of his formula spreadsheets and kind of get a pretty early glimpse as to what requests look like. So, again, there's a lot of work over the next few weeks to get that to him, and then once we send that first iteration to him on December 30th, the next 6 weeks or so is kind of a waiting game until the budget, the governor's budget comes out at the end of January. And then we'll gear up and for town meeting in the spring. We have a couple of public forum, actually we only have one on the calendar. I'm gonna add a couple of public forum dates to the calendar. We have one in December. We had talked about that one kind of being review of the process last year. Hopefully, where the community relations subcommittee is gonna figure out a way to market the meeting. I think it's December 13th right now on the calendar. So we can get some participation and really just have a informal, intimate conversation with some community members on what worked, what didn't work, their thoughts on the budget process from last year, how we can improve upon it this year. We're gonna be meeting with school staff over the next few months just to keep them up to date on the budget process. That's something that we started last year and it seemed to have worked pretty well. So again, we just reviewed the calendar. There's a lot of dates in there that will be changed as we move through the process, but right now the main target date is that December 30th, getting the first version to the town.
Any questions?
I know we're a ways out, but if we're gonna keep that December 13th date, did we wanna try for like a 6 o'clock to 6:30? If we can figure that out, then I can get that to the principals to start putting in their weekly updates as soon as this week, but, I don't wanna jump the gun on that either, but.
Because we have a school committee meeting that
Evening at 6:30.
that evening at 6:30. And there's basketball games, so there's two. I was looking at at the calendar as a whole, like who's gonna be available, yeah, there's a boys varsity game at 7. There's a, girls varsity and JV away at South Hadley. Oh, only varsity, it looks like. So, anyway, we'll, is that the cage match? It says right there, but I thought we had the, no, that's not, okay. All right, so, can we think about doing what we did last time with 6 o'clock start, or do we start at 6:30 and do 6:30 to, 7:30 or 6:30 to 7, the public forum as the first part of our meeting? What do you all think? What do you, I mean, like.
I would say 6 to 6:30 if we could swing that.
Just in case, I just put it in my calendar already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say 6 to 6:30.
It's tough to predict that far out.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I don't know what our agenda will look like that night, but.
Okay, so 6.
Hopefully it's a light agenda since we're coming off 3 meetings in November and right before the holidays.
Okay.
Just a suggestion. Jill agrees.
I was just trying to think of things to add for you.
All right, so I'll ask principals to put that in their updates starting this week.
We can send a blackboard out too. Okay. I'll work with Jackie on that.
Yeah, I'll hold off, maybe hold off.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
week
yep,
before,
yep.
but, yeah.
Mhm. Just put it
All
on my calendar.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else for budget? Okay, onboarding. George, you're up.
Okay. Well, I guess we talked about it a little bit as far as maybe creating some, or looking into if it's an option to do some kind of a welcoming packet. So when someone goes to pull papers or go and express their interest in getting appointed, they can get kind of a real high level overview of what the commitment is, what the expectations are. So that way it's not completely blind going in or completely unaware of what the actual criteria is, role.
And also, we reached out to Tracy just to find out, because we were questioning whether as an appointee for a 1-year term, if you still were required to take charting the course, and if they had an onboarding document, like a flyer or roles and responsibilities, and emailed Tracy. She's already gotten back to me, and they don't have one because every local rules and regulations are different, so we'll need to come up with our own. And then all members do need to take the charting the course, and she said that there'll be a bunch more sessions in the spring. So we'll just have to do it the best we can. So I did say that you were in the military and on drill that first weekend of the month. So she said, everyone has to take it, so we'll do our best and get that going. Any other questions or thoughts for onboarding? Okay, great. Moving on. Visitors' comments. I'll read it anyway, just because we're required to. Any citizen wishing to speak before the committee must sign in with the administrative assistant prior to the opening of the regular session of the school committee. The visitor will identify themselves by name and address and shall speak for no longer than 3 minutes. For anyone who is unable to sign in ahead of time, we ask that you clearly state your name and address so that this information can be included in the record of the meeting. And we have no visitors. Moving on to capital improvement requests.
So, I lost this. I put in the folder for tonight the 2 requests that we will be seeking for FY24. I think I put it in your folder.
You did? Yes.
Yes, I did. Okay. Both have to do with the high school one, and I will say this, are we asking for a vote or no?
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay.
I just didn't know how it was done last year, but I think to be safe.
Okay.
I would just say before I explain, when we make the motion, just keep the amounts out if you don't mind, because they we're still waiting on some updated quotes. So both of them will be at the high school. One is an updated camera security system, so replacing updating all the internal and external cameras, all the components, all that. So that'd be the first request. What we'd like to add to that and why this amount may change is adding a fob access to the main door at the high school, which we don't currently have, and then making our entrances handicap wheelchair accessible, which would be, buttons on the outside to have the doors open automatically. So that number could change for the first one. And then the second one is the projectors. I know we've talked about this, and we had talked with Chris and mentioned this to him, is this request was in our budget last year, and then it was added to the cut list when we needed to make cuts. What we did this year is kind of go back to that cut list when we had realized some savings from different areas, and the projectors was at the top of that list. So we're gonna ask for part of that project to be funded with capital, through the capital improvement. We have grant funds set aside to do a portion of that project, and then we'll ask for capital improvement to fund the remaining. Again, that amount could change because Ally, Todd, and David are going through. We've received a few quotes already, but they're going through to make sure that the rooms at the high school that are listed in that quote are ones that need projectors, and just making some modifications. So the amount may change. But those are the two requests that we will
Quick
put forward.
question, though. When we're talking about projectors, we're talking about this?
Yeah, so, is David right there? Yeah, so, yes, similar. It'll be a wall-mounted or ceiling-mounted projector with a whiteboard or some mechanism. David, perfect timing. Would you be able to speak to what type of projectors we would potentially be getting at the high school?
They would look similar to the ones that we have in here, the Epson Brightlink. It would be a non-interactive projector, but it would be what they call a short throw, where it mounts on the wall, and there'd be wire management. Right now, there's wires running across the floor for HDMI, sound, and power. Most of those wires would be mounted on a wall, similar to what they are here, not the high-level conduit, but they would be mounted so there's less tripping hazards on the floor. And the projectors would be of a higher quality, obviously. Right now, the projectors that are in use are very low end. They would be more similar to this type of quality for clarity. The rooms that currently do not have white laminate would have white laminate installed, so that the teacher's projecting onto a hard surface, not a pull-down screen. So the pull-down screen, if a teacher tries to touch it or is trying to illustrate something, the screen can move or waver. It would be a hard surface. So it would be a significant upgrade. It would make the environment at the high school similar to what's indicative, in the typical schools today.
This is one of those things we had identified last year. I think it was one of those items that made it to the very last round of the cut list, but we had argued that, this is something that classrooms need in today's
Absolutely.
environment. So.
I guess it was more of the because obviously technology is continuously changing, and even when East Meadow was built, I had one of these, and I don't even have one of these anymore. Teaching in the city versus, you know what I mean? So we're on to something that's even more interactive and looks like a giant TV. And so I was just curious, what our
Yeah, I think
realizing our budget
we're
and
being cognizant of the budget and things like that. Part of this, we had some Title I carryover from last year, which accounted for some of the savings, and this would be a Title I expense, and then the difference is what we'd be asking for from the town. So Yeah, I think David and Adam and that team have kind of looked at some other options, but I think we're being cognizant of what the budget is, and right, I think we could run this we could probably get something for double this as well.
We did have one option that was almost double this. So, like, this is a very fiscally conservative solution. Now, interestingly, there was another option that had a lot less functionality, but the cost difference was minimal. Like, you had that very low end one. This was a little bit of a bump up, but then the next one was like almost doubling. So this is the fiscally conservative option with added functionality, if I could phrase it that way.
I know technology is one of those hard ones because it's always.
Well, you're never going to be able to keep up with it.
I know.
I mean,
I know.
never. I mean,
Agreed.
never.
Something's better than nothing, though.
It is, and I was definitely with Audrey though. I mean, I just did a quick Google search too, because in my head, it is fiscally responsible, I understand that, but also to spend $40,000 on something that seems so out of date is hard to wrap your mind around if we're that far behind. It's better than nothing, so I
I wouldn't
get
say,
it.
if I can respectfully say, I wouldn't say it's out of date, because it's a product that's still manufactured.
Yes.
We're not, there's other options with more functionality, as we indicated, but once again, we're not buying something that's been sitting on a shelf for 5
Correct,
years.
yes, I apologize, not out of date, but with less functionality as other options on the market.
It comes down to how interactive is this, the technology that we're going to use, and
We are talking about the high school too.
yeah, and implementing something with a lot of,
Watch how you say it.
with a lot of capabilities also comes training the teachers on how to use them and making sure they can effectively use that technology in the classroom. I think this is a few steps up from what we're doing now. It's going to clean a lot of the mess up. It's going to afford some teachers some better.
You mean the cords and all that as far as cleaning a lot of the mess up?
And not projectors in the middle of the room. But it comes at a cost of how interactive is the technology. And again, I don't think we're ever going to keep up with this type of technology
And I
in the
think
classroom.
if you looked at other districts, around, you're gonna see varying levels of what that looks like, I don't think everybody has as interactive and as functionally capable as some of the inner city schools, and I think some of the more rural districts will have something similar to what, Granby wants to look like. And I don't think that that's, what this is looking like. I don't think that that's a negative thing. I
Yeah,
think it's, giving staff more options. It's not everything, but it's more.
And another thing we had talked about was, if there is a building project or some modifications made to this building and we are trying to preserve some type of technology, do we put $200,000 worth of technology in here that we may not be able to preserve in 5 to 7 years and we're purchasing all over again? So if that may be the case, let's go with a little cheaper option. So we've asked and answered all those questions, and I think we've come up with a pretty fiscal and logistical responsible proposal.
I'm good. I would love to see, like, going forward, like, obviously East Meadows, how many years now too, like, you'll reach that point where, if in our building anyway, it's, one unit goes down, it's okay, then we're gonna make this purchase, and that's when someone got a new board, and you're like, ooh, go over, check it out, like a bunch of hens, the new board, like, let's go look at it, and then, again, they would add it in, it would be one of those that once everyone has one, which right now it doesn't, the whole high school doesn't have any of these anywhere, right?
No.
So that's
Nope.
it, making forward progress, which is a good thing.
We have currently at the high school 2 mounted projectors.
Ceiling hung projectors, not.
2 ceiling hung mounted projectors, one in a computer lab, one in the library. Every classroom projector is on a cart or a desk with wires running.
Yeah. So this is a plus.
Yeah.
If there aren't any other questions, I'll take a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the capital improvement requests, including the GJSHS cameras and security systems, as well as the GJSHS projectors.
It was so much simpler when we just said Granby High School.
I know.
GHS.
Here I am trying to read, and I've struggled. I apologize.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is the enrollment dashboard.
Thanks, David.
Thank you for
Yes,
that
thank you.
explanation.
Thank you, everybody.
For help with that. I wish you could help me pronounce words,
Letters.
Gosh,
All right, the dashboard.
it looks a little different than normal. Does it look different on anyone else's screen?
Nope.
No?
Looks the same to- I think it's your computer.
Go down.
It's still
No, yours looks different.
That's because we said it's only, those are the only two that had changes.
Yes. Right, rather than before it was just zeros.
Right. Monthly enrollment breakdown, so grade level 4-1, so 2 new students, but those look like they're out because we were 2 less.
Right, 2 less.
4 out, 2 came in.
Oh, got it, okay. Monthly withdrawal, got it. 3, 9, 4, okay.
And I think it was Audrey who asked the question last time about services. So students receiving services are counted in that grand total of 724 because they're also counted in how the foundational Chapter 70 budget is calculated. I might have answered that in an update, but just for the record.
Thank you.
And we have a services only column now. That's nice. And further down one, resident, non-resident tuition enrollment. Okay.
So, yeah, 724, that's right about where our high was from last year.
So that's the number that was sent to, for our October 1, 724?
Nope,
I can't see this.
the September
It
one
was
would have been
probably
sent because it's
726.
as of October 1st.
Okay. So that's even better, 726, right?
Any plus is a plus.
Right. But it's also, we have to look at it because it's only resident, right?
Only residents count towards that, whether they're in our schools or not, the foundational.
Do we keep track of the applications received but no openings available for school choice? So like, I'm seeing 3 for grade 6, but next year when they're in grade 7, I can assume that they're gonna have openings because this year it's because they're in 2. Will we be able to reach out and say,
We could look into it, so that specific one, I believe, was just an error on the family's part, thinking that the openings in grade 5 were for the current grade 5. They basically were a year ahead when they applied in the spring, but we could, because your point still holds true, that in 7th grade, there's likely openings where there weren't in 6th.
Any other dashboard questions? Going once?
Still looking. In the lower charts, like school choice seats and homeschool and resident, non-resident, those are pretty consistent, right? So I guess what I'm saying is if any of, there's changes to those from month to month, could we like highlight it the month that it's, like the month that it changes, I guess? Because some of these are in
So is this in
here.
the resident, non-resident tuition enrollment one?
Sure.
Which one are
Like
you, well, which one are you
line-
talking
are you on,
about?
like,
Any
line
of them.
90?
Like, I feel like if they're, because like, I feel like it hasn't changed since last month, but I can't say for sure because I don't have it memorized.
I don't see
I guess.
the homeschool one that you're even talking about.
It's all the way
Oh, a little
to the right.
further
Yeah,
over.
like, so there's school choice seats, well, that one would be, what, the 22, 23, homeschool. Like, I wouldn't know if it's changed from one month to, well, I guess we would because it would be if they've left, right?
Mhm.
So I'm fine. Move on. I'm good. Sorry, processing and still looking.
Okay. And you guys always have access to this, so if questions
Yes.
come up outside the meeting,
Absolutely.
and sometimes that may even be easier, because if it's like a nuanced question, I can always pull Stacy into.
I think it's because I was overanalyzing it as I was looking at it in this moment, so I'm stopping.
Okay, no worries.
Are we good to move on? Okay, next is the private school application discussion. So this we generated because we've been having Children First and McDuffie come yearly to renew their application. And I believe it was Steve Griffin that mentioned, you know, he would love to see it for a longer duration. And so we said we would have a conversation about that. And I know Donna was in agreement as well, or at least that's what she voiced. So we said that we would have a discussion, so that's...
Do we know what grounds we're allowed to change it? Like, are we allowed to change it? Is it something that is?
When we were talking about it briefly, he had said something about some people do it for 5 years for, you know, and McDuffie used to be in a different town, so they probably have some familiarity with how it worked, because they would have had to go for approval in whatever town or city they were in before.
My understanding is that that local school committee's discretion, and I think, I don't know how the Children First piece played out, but the McDuffie, I think when they were new, the school committee at the time wanted them back in every year to have some of those discussions about enrollment and things like that, is my understanding of the history here, but I can look into some specifics for that. We didn't have it as a vote tonight because I didn't know what people were thinking, but if you want me to look into that a little bit more, I'm happy to.
Well, as a discussion point that you just made me think of is, because we want to have those discussions about enrollment potentially too, or do we know when our kids go to them? Like, do we have, like we know with Children First, we have a open relationship of discussion of these are the kids that I have, you know, but do we get that type of information without this meeting from
Steve,
McDuffie?
Yeah, Steve has been great. Anything I've requested of him, he's provided. I haven't had to ask for that specifically. I don't anticipate it would be a problem.
Because you're seeing it on the other end, because you're going to see who's going to school choice out.
Well, they're gonna leave for private, so
It
we
won't
don't,
say.
like, we will get some information on the private,
Excuse me.
so, because we know who goes to Monte Della Rosa or Pope Francis, yeah, things like that, so.
And then, you know, we have, so some of the things that I was thinking of is that we don't necessarily have to review their application, but I think, you know, the correspondence and the communication, just to have some kind of thing, and if they're already doing that anyway, you know, as long as we're getting, you know, just out of curiosity,
Right.
specifically for Children First, for the kindergarten numbers, like how many are residents that attend her kindergarten that will be coming here in first grade, and, you know, just, I think it's good to have the conversation, but
Agreed, as long as that doesn't fall off of our radar because we don't end up having these yearly meetings.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, did one force the other? Was the communication happening because the meeting was upcoming versus,
And
you know?
in both situations, like McDuffie came, it was early, and then the Children First part came because of the private kindergarten. So, you know, the other option is that it doesn't have to be for an approval, but we could have conversation. You know, like, we'd love to have you come in and, you know, have an annual discussion about your enrollment. We're not gonna vote on, you know, you're already approved, but it doesn't, I don't know that it necessarily is a bad thing to have some of that face-to-face conversation. So that's the other thing I was thinking about is, you know, as we present it. But then if they're like, well, if I'm gonna come, why not?
Right.
You know,
That's what I was just thinking. And then what's in our purview to really ask about other than the number? Like, does it warrant a meeting, or is it a phone call? Is it and if they've had open communication every time we've reached out, do we need additional, is my question.
And I'd be happy to, like, if any one of you wanted to visit Children First or McDuffie, I'd be happy to coordinate with Donna or Steve to set that up. if that would be helpful. If you had questions about that, I'm happy to do that.
I wonder if you're receiving kind of, ongoing communication during the year or whatever that looks like for students kind of enrolling or withdrawing or, checking in about numbers and the census data or whatever that looks like. I'm wondering if for our purposes, whether it's this time of year or early January or something, like we have our own conversation here. And then if we need to kind of follow up in some way with either place, we're able to do that. And then we kind of look at that application process as something separate and kind of like was brought up as, every 3 years or whatever you want to look at. And that way we don't lose sight of kind of that check-in point. But yeah, I kind of feel like it might not make sense to have them come and talk about something that can be done through an email or through information that we might already have, but just we need to just make sure that we're all aware of.
All right, so I think we can put it on the next one for discussion and a vote, just to see where we land. They seem like they're open it. For me, I think they would have to come next year anyway because it was only for a 1-year thing.
Mm-hmm.
But at the next time, I think, a 3-year, seems like 3 years makes sense, But then the only other thing that is kind of a worry is that the committee can change so much in 3 years that those people coming in may not have any kind of recognition or relationship to the, with the coming year over year, there is some of that face-to-face part too.
Sounds like a good issue for the onboarding committee to tackle.
So then I
It could be
guess
part
like,
of that welcome
would
packet.
it be better to do it every 2 years? I guess like,
Every other year or whatever, yeah.
rather than every 3, but I mean,
Yeah, so we can,
I'm trying to like calculate our numbers in our head of like when.
well, we're in an anomaly right now with 3 being up for,
Right.
that 3 will have the same expiration date. Usually it's 2, 2, and 1. So we're kind of in a little bit of flux, but that's just the way it's gonna shake out for now, so.
So I just want to make sure in my notes I'm correct. Are we proposing a vote for the next meeting?
I think
And if so, what
conversation,
would the
yeah,
vote be?
the vote is to extend the application duration.
Okay. Would you like us to invite Steve and Donna if they wanted to attend or no?
Might as well, let's see if they, because we could have some
I
conversation.
feel like
I
we
don't-
can offer it to them, but to feel like,
Yeah, they certainly don't need to be here, I don't, but let them know that we are going to
be looking at that.
be looking at it.
Just to follow up with them, that we heard them, that we talked about it. That
And we're gonna vote
We're
on
gonna
it.
vote if they'd like to attend, if they haven't.
Either,
already.
at this point, it sounds like we're talking either 2 or 3 years, so.
Okay.
Okay, next is the superintendent's report.
All right. So just wanted to let everyone know, and I did include this in last week's update, but this year's Junior Senior High School National Honor Society induction ceremony is planned for Thursday, December 1st. It once again will be held at East Meadow. So we're looking forward to inducting that next class, and if you haven't received it yet, I do know invitations are coming to the school committee. Also want to thank Cheryl Boisel, one of our speech therapists, who pursued a grant for a communication board for the playground through the Doug Flutie Foundation, and we found out recently that East Meadow would be the recipient of one of these boards this year. So I anticipate if it's not up in the next couple of weeks, it'd certainly be up in the spring at our playgrounds, and we anticipate the board will provide ways for our students with differing abilities to express themselves more effectively and interact with their peers in the playground setting. So thank you to Cheryl for that. Reminder, there is no school next Wednesday, November 23rd, so our Thanksgiving break does begin at the close of school on Tuesday, November 22nd. And a reminder that the junior-senior high school only has early dismissals on Monday, November 21st and Tuesday, November 22nd for their parent-teacher conferences. And that's all I have.
Any questions? All right, finance and operations.
Okay, I got a couple. One, the East Meadow cameras, I know we've been talking about this for a long time now. They are all back up and running. We are still missing one camera. This is not a joke. We've been going back and forth with this. So we got that one camera in. Probably about a month or so ago, got the one camera in. They had sent their techs to come and install it, and it was the wrong camera. So we just recently were notified that we got the camera in and they were going to send their techs out, and we told them, just send us the camera, please. We'll figure out a way to get it installed ourselves. So all cameras are working, still waiting on that one. What we did find throughout this process is, one, our software for those cameras is outdated. It hasn't been updated since 2018. So we will need to have that software updated. Obviously, it comes with a pretty hefty cost. And two, we need to be, they're up and running. They need to be reconfigured. Essentially, the passwords were reset on these cameras. David and I were not really sure at what point, where, by who. So all those passwords have been reset. They've been reconfigured. That also came with a cost, but that portion of it, I'm going to hopefully put under that insurance claim that's still open, because that is a directly impact from that lightning strike. So there is a cost to that. I'm not sure exactly what that final number is yet, but I'm hopeful I'm going to put it through the insurance claim. And in relation to that, the TV at the police department that also sees the feed for these cameras, I think separately it was either old or what, but that went down. So we agreed that we would purchase the new TV for the police department. So I believe that's on order. Hopefully once we get it, we'll work with them to get that installed. So that's the camera update at East Meadow. At the high school, John had worked with an electrician. All the lights have been fixed in the high school gymnasium. There had been a couple that were out, I believe, for over a year, just with gym class and balls and stuff hitting the lights. So they've all been fixed as of today, which is good, just in time for basketball season. Last, the outdoor court is complete. And I'll let Allie speak on that at another point. I know we're supposed to have a little ceremony and stuff possibly in the springtime, but in relation to that, the tennis court fences have been removed and we're in the process of cleaning that space up. So John and his staff has worked to get those down. So that's where we're at with those.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
With the cameras, did they give you, or does anyone know how often that the software would, like, we
Yeah, so that
anticipate
was,
it to be updated?
So David can speak more to this, but maybe I can try. So it was out of date in 2018, which was not long after the building project was over.
That's when it was installed.
That's when it was installed, sorry. So I think from there through COVID, there was either some miscommunication or no communication that that software should have been installed. The problem was, during that building project, we had 3 or 4 different vendors with their hands on the security and the camera system here. And that information just never made it to us. So unfortunately, probably something that should be updated every couple of years. We're 4 years behind, so it's going to be a little more costly than usual. So I'd say it was an oversight on our part, but not something that we were ever made aware of or would know that it needed updating. just,
We were just informed a couple weeks ago when they were out here doing what we thought would be one of the final repairs. And they said, oh, no wonder why you're having some of these troubles. And then they told us. That's the first we learned of it.
Yeah. I know camera systems can be tricky and finicky, and when they push out updates, it only lasts for so long before you're looking at like overhauling whole systems and.
yeah, again, I think with the building project, we had just so many different hands,
Yeah.
on
There
that
were like 4
specific.
different vendors involved.
Yeah, yep. So, something that we're aware of now, and we have one vendor that will oversee that process, and, they'll work with us to make sure they stay up to date.
Anything else? Any other questions? CES?
Tomorrow.
I knew I was gonna.
I knew I was waiting.
Okay, anything for next time? Which is when? When is our next one?
29th.
Oh, I'm in December. Whoopsie. All right. Anything for the 29th that anyone can think of? I don't remember. I didn't write anything down that we needed to add for the.
Just the vote if we do the private school application.
Okay.
I did reach out again to Deputy Chief Sear today, because I have not heard back from him about the emergency operation plan, so even if we don't hear back from him, I might try to pull the emergency preparedness team together to come to that meeting and just share that. I'm hoping, but
Anything else? All right. With that, we're going to vote to enter into executive session under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Part A3, to discuss strategy with regard to collective bargaining, as doing so in an open session may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the committee. The committee will not return to open session.
Ms. Bartos?
Aye.
Perrin?
Aye.
Mr. Belky?
Aye.
Ms. Shudak?
Yes.
Ms. Pelletier?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.